Get unlimited access to all of our CPE courses at www.teachucomp.com/unlimited CPE.
In this lesson, we will examine the expenses for child-independent care that qualify as work-related expenses. In order for a taxpayer to claim the credit, expenses must be to provide care for a qualifying person. Expenses for child and dependent care only qualify as work-related expenses if the care is for the safety and well-being of the qualifying person. Expenses for household services qualify if part of the service is for the care of the qualifying person. Expenses for food, clothing, lodging, and entertainment do not count as work-related expenses, even if they are for the care of a qualifying person. However, a taxpayer may include small amounts paid for these items if those amounts cannot be separated from other qualifying costs. Educational expenses for young children below the level of kindergarten, such as those paid to a nursery school or preschool, count as qualifying care expenses. Most educational expenses for children in kindergarten and higher grades are not qualifying care expenses. However, certain after-school care programs may be considered as qualifying expenses. Tutors and summer school programs are not considered expenses for care. When figuring child-independent care expenses, a taxpayer may count some expenses for care that take place outside of the taxpayer's home. If the care is for a dependent under the age of 13 or another qualifying person who spends at least 8 hours per day in the taxpayer's home, the expense may be considered work-related. If the qualifying person is receiving care at a dependent care center, the related expenses may be considered a work-related expense provided that the center complies with any and all state and federal regulations that apply to care centers. The costs of day camps for children are generally considered to be work-related, but overnight camps are not. Certain fees associated with care are also considered to be work-related expenses, even if the fees are not directly for care. Examples include fees paid to an agency in order to obtain the services of a care provider, application fees, deposits, and other expenses that must be paid in order to obtain care for a qualifying person. Let's take a look at review question number 9. Joe is a single father of 3 who works full-time. Which of the following is an example of an expense that would qualify as a work-related child care expense? A. Joe pays to send his 14-year-old son to a baseball day camp for 2 weeks in the summer while Joe works. B. Joe pays to send his 12-year-old daughter to band camp in another state for 3 weeks over the summer, during which time Joe works full-time. C. Joe pays a deposit at a daycare center for his youngest son, but Joe removes his son from the daycare 2 weeks later without notice and forfeits the deposit. Or D. Joe pays an application fee to an agency which performs a background check and a reference check on a nanny for Joe's youngest son. The answer is D. As long as the nanny is taking care of Joe's child under the age of 13, the application fees paid to the nanny agency can be considered a work-related child care expense.
Like what you see? Get unlimited access to all of our CPE courses at www.teachucomp.com/unlimited CPE.